Hey, how's it going everyone, and welcome back to Should You Buy. Today we are talking about the one, the only Assassin's Creed Valhalla. This is probably the most anticipated game for me to review on my channel. I mean, I've been making videos on this game since like January, and my channel actually originally started out as an Assassin's Creed channel, hence my name, so I cannot believe we're finally here. Now I have to admit, when that first trailer came out in March, I was very excited for the game, but as I saw the gameplay, my expectations were considerably lower because it was looking a lot more like a reskinned Odyssey. And I have to say, after putting a full 60 hours into this game and finishing the story, I was quite surprised. Now, Valhalla was made by Ubisoft Montreal, who also made Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Origins, which are both great games. But after Odyssey, I lost a lot of faith in the series, and I can proudly say Valhalla has given me hope once again. Now, the first thing I wanted to touch on was the story, and I'm obviously not going to give away any spoilers or anything like that. I'm just going to go over the premise and just the feel of it in general. Starting with the intro, I think honestly it was one of the best intros to an Assassin's Creed we've had in a long time, probably the best since Unity, maybe even before that. With the intro, it almost immediately enforces this really dark tone to be carried out throughout a large portion of the main story. The intro was very dark and brutal, and I personally loved it because it felt like the game was taking itself seriously and it wasn't just some cringy comedic story like in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The intro also does a good job of setting up our protagonist Eivor. Eivor's motivation is to restore honor to his family and bring glory to him and his clan, which I think worked quite well. Now you can choose between a male and female Eivor. I personally chose the male Eivor and definitely recommend you guys do the same. The voice acting with male Eivor is so much better, and personally I think the story makes a lot more sense, and it makes the interactions with characters like Sigurd make a lot more sense. Now I've heard that the female Eivor is canon. I'm not 100% sure if that is true or not, but either way I think the male version is much better, so it doesn't really bother me which one is canon. Eivor certainly isn't the best Assassin's Creed protagonist we've had. You know, he's no Ezio or Altair or anything like that. He is a solid protagonist. I would put him up there with like the mid-tier for Assassin's Creed. Valhalla does a really good job of establishing the friendships and relationships Eivor has with a lot of the characters like Sigurd, Randvi, Basim, and Hatham. Sigurd in particular I think was a very well done character because Sigurd and Eivor, you can tell, just have a really strong brotherly bond, and it's clear that keeping Sigurd clear-minded and safe is always a top priority for Eivor, which sets up some interesting conflicts among the clan. Now probably what you guys want to know, and what I was most nervous about when playing this game, was if there would actually be assassins in it, and the answer is yes. The assassins make a return, which I can't believe is something we actually have to hope for in an Assassin's Creed game in the first place, but you can blame Odyssey for that. Now the assassins don't play a massive role in the story. The main focus is on Eivor and his Viking clan, but they are in there for a good amount. Eivor's relationship with the assassins at the beginning kind of reminds me of like Edward Kenway from Black Flag. Now personally I do wish there was more focus on the hidden ones in the story because there was definitely the potential to do more with it. But let's not forget that Valhalla also has a present day storyline, and it was actually really good, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't cared about the present day stuff since AC3 with Desmond, but Valhalla has officially piqued my interest in the present day storyline once again. There's a lot of cool returning characters that I won't spoil, and there's a lot of references to the older games and old assassins that were really cool. There's also some notes on the walls and stuff that talk about some of the connections between the modern day assassins and the ancient hidden ones, and it actually even explains how the hidden ones became the Assassin's Creed, which was really awesome. And overall, Valhalla has a really solid main story. It's dark, it's serious, and most importantly, it feels a lot closer to an Assassin's Creed game, so well done overall by Ubisoft. On the gameplay side, there are also quite a lot of returning features from the older Assassin's Creed games, but before we get into that, we need to touch on the combat. Ever since Assassin's Creed has started to become more of an RPG, starting with Origins, the combat has been much different. I wasn't a fan of Origins or Odyssey's combat. I thought the combat was very long, dragged out, and boring. It was missing a lot of that cinematic flair from the previous games. Valhalla definitely builds more on the combat from Origins with the shields and different attacks. I did find the combat fun at times, but it's still not what it should be. I appreciated a larger focus on playing the combat with more skill and strategy as opposed to just spamming the attack button. The stamina bar was a really nice inclusion that I think the game needed. I also like how you can attack enemies in their weak spots or just parry to get stun attacks. However, the combat is still just boring, especially after you get used to it. It feels a lot more like a standard RPG combat with light attack, heavy attack, dodge, block, and some special abilities to use. Sure, these abilities added some variety and some of them were really cool, but overall it's just boring. Maybe it's just me, but I got pretty bored of the combat after a while, and it made me desperately wish I could play the whole game in stealth stealth because this game has a lot of mandatory combat since you are a Viking going on raids a lot, so there is not a lot of opportunity for stealth. I've said it before and I will say it again, but a perfect example of what Assassin's Creed combat should feel like is Ghost of Tsushima. It's fast paced, there's different moves and stances you can attack in. I think the combat system would be awesome to have in Assassin's Creed as opposed to the Witcher RPG style combat. However, I did love the finishers in Valhalla. The dismemberments looked really cool and added an extra flair to some pretty dull combat. On the stealth side, straight up, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has the best stealth since Assassin's Creed Syndicate. For starters, we have the return of the hidden blade, which I think looks great in the game. There's also a large variety in the assassination animations depending on whether you are crouching or standing like in the older games, and the animations in general just look great. They aren't super drawn out like AC Odyssey, they are just quick 2 to 3 second kill animations so you don't have to waste too much time. Having the hidden blade on the forearm instead of your wrist was fine for me, and the developers even teased us a bit with the explanation for Eivor having the blade on his forearm and not his wrist, which was pretty hilarious. By far, my favorite part about stealth though is the return of social stealth and eagle vision. It worked so when you entered cities that you are not allowed in, you would have to put up your hood and cloak and sneak into the city via crowd blending and hiding, which was great. It gave me some major Assassin's Creed 1 vibes. Sneaking through a crowd of people and assassinating a target and then vanishing by sitting on a bench or sitting down and eating with other people was so cool and gave me so much nostalgia. The return of social stealth actually gives me hope that Ubisoft is listening and giving us the old beloved features like social stealth and making a nice balance with the new features. Stuff like chain assassinations from AC Origins is also back, which is fantastic. Still would love to see double assassinations return, but chain assassinations are close enough. I did have some issues with detection. The detection meter seemed really fast in Valhalla, and a lot of the time I would be instant spotted from far away. Like the detection meter won't show in white at all, it's just an instant spot, which I don't know if that's just a glitch, but that was really annoying to deal with at times. I touched on this briefly earlier as well, but Valhalla doesn't have a lot of stealth opportunities compared to Origins or even Odyssey for that matter. In those games you almost always had the choice between stealth or combat, but in Valhalla there's a lot of mandatory combat. In fact, in like the first 5 hours of the game I only had like 1 or 2 opportunities to do a mission in stealth. So Valhalla has great stealth, but it's unfortunate because you can't use it in the raids or sieges. And I almost forgot to mention, one-shot assassinations are back. There's no more chipping little health off of the higher level enemies when assassinating them, because in Assassin's Creed Valhalla there is an actual setting you can turn on so that you kill any enemy immediately with an assassination, including the mini bosses. It was great to have that back, and once again I appreciate Ubisoft for actually listening to what fans of the older Assassin's Creed games wanted. Now I obviously played with one-shot kill assassinations on, but on the skill tree there are a lot of points that give you increased stealth damage and all that, so those skills are rendered completely useless. But other than that, the one-shot assassinations are great. I was so happy to have that option in the game. Another one of my complaints from Origins and Odyssey was the leveling system. I didn't like how you had to complete a long list of side tasks just so you could be a high enough level to do the main missions, and Valhalla completely fixes this. Valhalla removed the leveling system for something called power levels, which you gain from spending skill points, and what is so great about them is that you are always given the proper power level to complete any main missions, so you could go through the entire game without playing a single side mission if that's how you wish to play. What they did with the side missions is also great. Instead of these long, tedious quests that you have to grind through, they are just little blips on the map that you can go to and play in these quick, fun, and often funny side activities. There's also a lot of fun games like drinking games, flighting, and even a new dice game that almost reminds me of a more simple version of Gwent from The Witcher 3. Another thing Valhalla greatly improves over Origins and Odyssey is how you upgrade and obtain gear. The amount of gear is reduced considerably, and instead the game focuses less on bloated loot that you have to switch out every 5 minutes. It makes it a priority for you to upgrade and enhance your gear as you progress through the story. I almost went the whole game with the same gear I had from the beginning, and I just kept enhancing and upgrading it to become more powerful. Valhalla also removes naval combat, which may be a disappointment to some people, but I personally was never a fan of it, and instead it introduces raiding, which is very similar to the raids in Assassin's Creed Black Flag if you guys remember those. The raiding was fun at first, but you do it so much in the world and even the main story that it gets pretty old and repetitive, and with no option to do it in stealth, I personally didn't enjoy it too much. You can manage and even recruit your friends, raiders, to your raiding party. It really isn't anything too special or memorable though, they're just CPUs at the end of the day. Another large new addition to Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the settlements. I personally liked it a lot because it reminded me of the settlement system from Assassin's Creed 2, where you can build new shops shops and areas in your settlement to unlock more items and mission opportunities. The settlement definitely could have been utilized more, but it is a good start and will hopefully be built upon and improved in Assassin's Creed games to come. Assassin's Creed Valhalla starts off in the snowy mountains of Norway, but after a few hours, you and your clan move out to the lush green countryside of England to pillage, raid, conquer, and forge alliances. Valhalla does a good job of showing the contrast between Norway and England, as Norway is a very dark, cold, snowy land, while England is a vibrant, bright world. The world is rich full of content with side activities and random encounters, along with large cities that you need to infiltrate and sneak into. A constant theme of Valhalla compared to Origins and Odyssey is that Valhalla is a lot more focused on quality instead of just focusing on making the game as big as possible, and that is the same case with the open world. England is considerably smaller than ancient Greece from Odyssey, and I actually really love that. It allows for more ease in travel and larger chances that you run into cool exploration areas or world activities, along with lots of cool loot. This world focuses much more on quality over quantity, and that is how Assassin's Creed should be. The world itself feels very lively and immersive in the cities, and it is often very easy to tell the difference between cities controlled by Saxons and cities controlled by Danes. The Viking settlements are a lot more rugged and rough, while the Saxon settlements have large fancy buildings and roads. The civilians and guards of Saxon cities are also not accepting of you, so you have to sneak your way around and try to avoid being seen in these cities, invoking one of the Assassin's Creed tenets, hide in plain sight. Not to mention, Asgard is also in this game with its own large open world. Personally, I didn't like how Asgard was included in an Assassin's Creed game, but it was still a lot of fun and definitely unique to the series. And I'm sure you can tell just from the graphics that this game is quite beautiful. Now honestly, there isn't a huge leap in graphics from Odyssey to Valhalla, and many people were complaining that the game doesn't look next gen, but I mean, honestly, the game looks really beautiful, and there were so many moments where I had to stop and take a picture from the photo mode. Performance on PC was pretty solid. It was definitely better than Watch Dogs Legion, that's for sure. On my RTX 2070 Super and i5 9600K at 1440p, I averaged around 70 to 90 FPS in the free roam and about 60 to 70 FPS in large raids and cities. This is a very hard game to run though if you have a mid or low tier PC, and that would be something I take into heavy consideration before buying the game, especially if graphics and performance are something that is a huge deal to you. Like most Assassin's Creed games on release, this game has a lot of bugs. Some of them were annoying, some of them hilarious, and a lot of them frustrating. I have honestly come to expect this from Ubisoft, and while there aren't too many game-breaking bugs, it definitely should have been more polished for the game's release. These bugs would range from anything from flying corpses, getting stuck on objects, voice glitching, or even removing Eivor's helmet for random reasons. I wouldn't say these bugs are enough to stop you from buying the game, like it's not even close to AC Unity level, but you will definitely experience them quite often during your playthrough. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has a dark and brutal story with the return of the Hidden Blade and social stealth, a rich, beautiful open world, interesting AC lore, a good present-day storyline, and a great leveling system. However, it has some boring and repetitive combat and a large amount of bugs. So I'm going to give Assassin's Creed Valhalla an 8.5 out of 10. To be honest, I didn't even know my rating system had 0.5s in it, but I made the exception for Valhalla because I believe the game is great and a lot of fun, but isn't quite up there with the best games in the series like Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood. It is very close though, don't get me wrong, and I think it is a great refocus for the series and sets up the future games with lots of potential of what they can do with Assassin's Creed going forward. The standard edition of the game is priced at $60, and unless you plan on playing all the DLCs, then I recommend that's the edition you buy because the game is worth it and you will definitely have lots of content to play through. I didn't even do all the side activities and it still took me 60 hours to complete the game, so this game should keep you busy for a while, or at least until Cyberpunk comes out, which I know we're all excited for. So that's my opinion on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and now I want to hear yours in the comments down below. What did you think of the stealth or the new combat system, and where does Valhalla rank on your Assassin's Creed rankings? I would love to discuss it with you guys in the comments. And don't worry, there will be more Assassin's Creed Valhalla content coming from me soon, and I was actually thinking of making an Assassin's Creed game ranking video, so if you want to see that, let me know and I will get started on that very soon. The next game I will be checking out is the new Miles Morales Spider-Man, so can't wait to play and review that for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, a like on the video and subscribing to the channel would be really appreciated. We are almost at 7,000 subscribers, which I could not be more thankful for. You guys are all really changing my life, so again, thank you so much. If you want to discuss my videos or just talk to me directly, feel free to join my Discord server. The link is in the description. Other than that, thank you for watching and have a wonderful rest of your day, assassins.